Your Highness, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are here at a remarkably historic time. Qatar is one of 5 Arab nations taking part in these strikes against ISIS. Why are you doing this, and are you in it for the long haul?
Well, we're in it because we believe that this is a dangerous, dangerous movements happening in around our region, and we're going to stay in it as you said, for unfortunately it looks like we're going to stay for a while. Everybody, not only Qatar. So we are in it. We believe that we have to counter terrorism, and that is why we are in it. We've been asked by our American friends if we can join, and we did.
Secretary of State Kerry, President Obama himself have said that this is not about President Assad at the moment. Yes, there's been a 3-year war. Yes, everybody said Assad must go, but this is only about ISIS. Do you agree with that?
Honestly, no, I don't agree. I agree that we have to counter terrorism, yes, but I believe that the main cause of all this is the regime in Syria, and this regime should be punished. As you said, it's more than 3 years now war, and the environment that the Syrian people have been living in, it will create this violence. And we've been saying that from day one, that if we don't stop the bloodshed in Syria, and we don't stop Bashar committing genocide on his own people, this is where we're going to reach. Unfortunately, we are in a situation now that the Syrian people who demanded for their freedom are between a regime, brutal regime, and terrorist acts. So I think it's a whole thing that has to be solved. If we think that we're going to get rid of terrorist movements and leave those regimes doing what, this regime especially, doing what he's doing, then terrorist movements will come back again.
So how far can you just agree to be striking ISIS? Will Qatar do something else? Strike Assad targets, regime targets?
Well, Qatar cannot do that by itself, of course. If there's a coalition that will help and protect the Syrian people, we will be part of it. As you know, that we were part of a coalition that helped to free the Libyan people. So we will be part of it, because we believe that the main, what caused all this chaos is the Syrian regime.
But it won't derail you?
No, it won't. It won't. Terrorism is something that it's not acceptable in our culture and our religion, so it will not stop us.
You mentioned you're also in this to stop the funding of the terrorist groups. As you know, this is something that President Obama, in fact, all world leaders are saying the only thing that's really going to stop it is the funding. Qatar has been blamed, criticized over the years for either funding or allowing sympathetic sheikhs, mullahs, sympathetic rich people to fund these movements. Well,
we have to see the difference between movements. I know that in America and some countries they look at some movements as terrorist movements. In our part of region we don't. But if you're talking about certain movements, especially in Syria and in Iraq, we all consider them terrorist movement, and we don't accept any fund for those, and we don't accept anybody funding those groups.
Will you stop them? The people who go to the mosques and whip people up and say we've got to, you know, help jihad?
We have a strong law against funding terrorist groups, but as I said, there's differences between some countries of who are the terrorists and who are the maybe Islamist groups, but we don't consider them as terrorists.
Such as?
Such as groups in Syria, groups in Libya, groups in Egypt as well.
But isn't that a problem then? Because you then have a fundamental difference with some of your coalition partners. And you have been criticized. Qatar has over the years been criticized of sort of throwing money at a lot of these groups. And some of them are troublemakers in Syria. Some of them are extremists. So you're saying that you don't buy that? You don't recognize them as extremists?
No, we do recognize extremists. We believe if they're extremists, we believe that they're extremists, and we don't fund extremists. But there are differences. There are differences that some countries and some people that any group which comes from Islamic background are terrorists, and we don't accept that. And all this is because of political difference. We don't accept that. But people, especially in Syria and Iraq and other Arab countries, who don't believe in the freedom of speech, who don't believe that they have to live with others and accept others, and also accept the choice of the people, their own people, those are the people that we don't fund. Other than that, I believe that we will make a big mistake for any Islamic movement, that we have differences, ideology differences with them. I'm talking about some countries, to consider them extremists. I think this is a big mistake. It's in danger. Other than that, extremists are well known. Terrorist groups are well known, and we know them. Everybody knows them.
So let me ask you specifically then, because this is obviously key to all of this. Some of the Arab coalition partners taking part with you have had differences with you over, for instance, the Muslim Brotherhood. You supported the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Now they're out. You housed them, a lot of them, once they were flushed out. And also Hamas. Obviously the United States believes, and Israel and many other nations, that that is a terrorist organization. You don't. So does that mean you keep funding them?
Going back to the first point that you mentioned, that we had differences with with some of our brother neighboring countries. It is true, yes, we had differences. There was a confusion in the beginning of the Arab Spring, and for everybody, especially in our region, because it happens in our neighbors, in neighboring countries. Everybody took a different step, foreign policy. We took our foreign policy, which we believe was right at that moment, that we helped and we stood by the Arab people who demanded for their dignity and for freedom. What happened after that election? Egyptian people elected government, or elected the Muslim Brotherhood. We gave aid to the Egyptian government before the Muslim Brotherhood, during the military government after the step down of Hosni Mubarak. People were saying that we support the Muslim Brotherhood. We don't support. We support the Egyptian government. We supported them during Mr. Tantawi. We supported them also during the Prime Minister Issam Sharaf. We supported them during Ms. Morsi, and we support them also during the former President Adli Mansour, and we still support them. So something to do with the Muslim Brotherhood. We know that Muslim Brotherhood, after what happened in Egypt a year ago, after the coup that happened in Egypt, many of them left, and some of them came to Qatar because they were threatened and they were afraid. So yes, they were in Qatar, and they were safe in Qatar as long as they didn't practice any political or any ideas. They're always welcomed in Qatar.
Are they still there?
Some of them are still there. Some of them are leaving because they believe that this is the moment for them to practice politics, and they know the rules of the country, that as long as you're here, you cannot practice politics against any other Arab country.
As long as they're in Qatar?
As long as they're in Qatar.